let me hand over to you. Great to see you. Give us the truth.
Yes, warm greetings to everyone in Asgardia, Prime Minister, Chair, all colleagues in Parliament. Very happy to visit today. It's very nostalgic for me to be able to be here with you. I'm happy to, you recognize your colleague, Dr. Egbert Edlebrook, founder and CEO. Hello, everybody. Founder and CEO of Borne United. And he is here in Austin for the South by Southwest event for the Technology and Innovation Week, in which in the last few years the innovative space sector has exploded. And so he's here to do his presentation with his prototype and it's very exciting information. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Without further ado, Dr. Egbert Edlebrook.
It's great to see you all again and to join you here. And it's also very great to be at Cheryl's place here in Austin, in Texas, and seeing
Which
her
he
in
is,
person.
Right?
I'm real here, not a hologram. And the other reason, of course, is to promote the space life science and Asgardia and Borne United at the big event here in Austin, South by Southwest. I'm going to do two presentations actually, one in the biggest, the best, the most beautiful room that they have with 1,200 seats, probably even people like Captain Kirk being on the front row. What's his real name again?
William Shatner.
William Shatner, of course. How can I forget? We're going to do some podcasts and interviews. Indeed, on the background you see the event itself, but also the supplier from Malaysia who is producing a space capsule that will make sure that the embryos that we will have in space soon, that they will recover safely back to Earth. It's a real life-size model. It's a 75 centimeter diameter space capsule. We will be bringing the model to the event, so it will be covered as well. We're going to meet a lot of space biotechnology leaders at the event, at the network options. We're going to have Professor Scott Solomon from Houston as a guest also. He's going to promote his book, Becoming a Martian. He has a MIT Press contract to make this book, and he wants to involve a lot of the Borne United project in it. We're going to have a meeting with the part of the Borne United team at the event. Cheryl is going to join, of course. She's going to cover things. There's going to be a lot of coverage on Asgardia news. We have a new YouTube channel for Borne United, actually, where we started posting interviews with interesting implementation partners, etc. And there's a big news I want to release. We've been in discussions with the sector for IVF on Earth, so fertilization and embryo development on Earth. And of course, we're all doing this to progress on the roadmap for childbirth in space. But step by step, we are learning more and more about the options that our experiments in space will also benefit the IVF sector on Earth. And that's actually something that is also helping to encourage women to have careers. And I need to explain that a little bit. So the reason the infertility rates for people and couples is increasing. That means that more people need support by technologies like IVF to become pregnant. And the number that these rates are increasing is because women are more and more choosing a career and then a few years later start with children. And by improving IVF on Earth, we're also helping to encourage people to have women to have careers. And we feel really good about this. We just had International Women's Day. So we're happy we can also contribute to that. And it will greatly help the business case, because improving fertilization rates is big business in the IVF sector. So that's also a good thing. Another news thing is our test flight. Our first IVF prototype in space should have been on a rocket in Canada in about 2 months from now. But this company, SpaceRide, is in a lot of trouble. They have to stop operations. But of course, when planning for these missions, and especially these crucial suppliers, we always have backup plans. And one, I'm not going to reveal this one because it's too good. It's too great. It's much better even than this Canadian option. But that's for another time. This is just a cliffhanger, a teaser. I want to show the mission that we're talking about, that we're working towards. We have a completed animation now, 2-minute animation. We've had fragments shown before, but now it's the edited, complete version. And I want to start showing that now.
Is it all right if I share my screen?
Yeah, share screen. Please do share screen. Yeah. That was fascinating. Let me see.
Especially that
So,
ending.
did you want to add anything else to that before we take questions and comments? I know you're on.
Yeah, we're completely ready for any kind of questions.
Great, thank you. That is always so exciting. I'll make one observation. I notice now that we are talking more and more about doing things in space. The first half decade of Parliament has been getting ready for this time. The second 5 years will be doing with inspirational leaders of thought like Egbert and Cheryl. It's going to happen. We'll have games on kids in space. It's a pretty good collection of initiatives together with Asgardia too. Let's go to Ariadne then as well. Ariadne.
Gracias, felicidades. Creo que han hecho el equipo que se necesitaba para lograr el objetivo. La música de Cheryl ahí, wow, me encantó, de verdad. Qué maravilla. Esto es...
This is wonderful. This is really pretty. I congratulate you both and continue on.
Thank you for that. I think you speak for all of us. Hugo.
Thanks very much. It was a brilliant presentation, and I felt like I was watching an award-winning documentation, award-winning animation. I would like to say the following. I may be deviating from the topic, but to return the capsules, do we always need parachutes when they are coming back? I felt
It's a great question. You can
like
address the
this,
hard landing.
and
Yeah.
I am thinking about the following. If it had a kind of propeller system, like a drone, instead of sending a helicopter, wouldn't the capsules themselves be able to come back to the IVF center as like drones with propellers? Thank you.
Great question. So on the parachute system, that's one option. The other option to have a soft landing instead of a hard landing would be with small rocket boosters doing a firing to slow it down, as you can see it sometimes with NASA missions. But that's much more expensive and much more. It's requiring much more mass. So this is a very cost-effective and safe option. A better option than the other alternatives. And collecting this device with a helicopter versus using drones, that should not have to make a very big difference, but the most important thing is we want to protect the embryos that are inside the capsule, and we need to keep them at a very low temperature. They are protected for the violent re-entry through the atmosphere.
I think my question is misunderstood. I mean, could the capsule itself has some propellers like a drone? If the drone propellers are installed on the drone rather than using a parachute, I meant.
It would.
So that it could navigate directly to the IVF center itself.
Yeah, I think that might be the future actually. It's difficult to really very accurately land on a specific location. So you should prepare for some transportation from the landing to the IVF clinic, and adding rotors, helicopter-like rotors to this capsule would add a lot of mass, and every kilogram you need to put into space is very expensive and makes things much more complex. So it's more cost effective and more, it's not as time consuming if you just use a helicopter, which is not that expensive, much less expensive than adding helicopter-like rotors. But it's creative thinking, and we always encourage all kind of creative ideas like these, because sometimes they are very good ideas.
Thank you for that. There's another hand as well. There's one down there. Would anybody else like? I know that sort of had team that Egbert has to leave soon. Anybody else have any question? If not, I will ask you one. What actually happens to the embryos afterwards?
Yeah,
How far are they taken?
Logical question. They're, as it was shown in the animation, they're preserved inside an IVF clinic, and they will be examined for the effects of the space journey. And if the embryos are healthy enough, they can be placed back inside the mothers to grow into babies. But that will require a lot of regulatory approval. And of course, we're going to start with animal embryos, so small mammalian animals like mice. And they can be easily placed back in the mother mouse to grow into mouse pups and see if there are something called transgenerational factors that can then also be studied to really make sure that as soon as we do the same with human embryos, it's really safe, not just for the first generation, but also generations afterwards.
Then one stupid question, one serious question. The stupid question is, what happens if they turn into alien?
Well, technically they will be aliens because they are conceived in space. So they're the first official aliens.
As long as they don't turn into the one in the film, and that Cameron was the director. And the serious question was this: in your opinion,
Quiero decir algo. Please tell me.
I would like to say something.
oh, go on. Okay, I'll come on after you. Go ahead, Sarah.
No,
No, there
no,
are
not.
Asgardians.
like that. That's all.
But so I didn't hear that. My apologies.
Cheryl, do you want to comment?
They wouldn't be aliens, they would be Asgardians.
Oh, well, yes, of
And
course.
it would be
that's
a logical way of thinking like that.
That's a very good way of looking at it. I'll come to Prime Minister in a moment. The most serious question I've got is, you mentioned the regulatory system. I imagine there could be a huge amount of regulatory concern, and some people have moral issues. What's your prediction about the extent to which we can overcome that with human embryos?
Yeah, so I learned a lot from last week's discussion with very high-level people in the IVF sector, also involved in the regulatory institutions, and they kind of reassured me that we're making too much of a big deal out of this, and the politically originating regulatory institutions are biased, and we don't actually need their approval so much. We moreover need the approval of the sector itself with the real IVF specialists, and they much better understand what's going on and what is ethically relevant. And we were worried quite a lot. We were preparing for a lot of work on this regulatory approval topic, but this person is like leading the ethical and regulatory approval in the IVF sector, and he's very positive that it will be a lot easier than we were preparing for. So we expect within this decade, we will have the first human child on Earth conceived in space.
That's within the 2020s.
Yes.
Pretty exciting. Let me give the last word to the Prime Minister.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't help but pick up your jokey question because, of course, that would be a legal alien like the Sting and American in New York. But the reason I wanted to talk is that there has been a very extensive webinar on this subject on the 5th of January, where also Cheryl and Egbert were conversing with more people. So again, Rebecca, if you please post into the chat the link to that webinar, so colleagues who missed it have a chance to view this whole 1 hour conversation, which was excellent and extremely interesting.
Thank you very much indeed. That's a great place to finish on this item. Really appreciate you coming. We're 8 minutes late now, but I really appreciate you being there. And I do, actually, no, you're 1 minute early. Sorry, couldn't do the sound. I do believe you're real because your answers did not sound like Cheryl programming. There'll be more reference to us if it's Cheryl's programming. Very briefly, Ada. Go ahead, Ada. Ada?
Yeah, I'm gonna be so short. Don't worry. Hi, everyone. No, nice to have you, Gallagher, back here. Nice to see you back. In some of my proposal, I wrote, and one is the law 17 about working with aliens and sharing and training with them. So it's not the first time it's being raised in the parliament by me. Thanks.
That is actually true. You have raised it before. I had not considered the fact that if you are conceived in space, you are technically an alien, an extraterrestrial by definition, because it doesn't matter where the bits come from, it's where they're put together. That's a really big insight for me. I can see myself writing this book about our story it is. Thank you, Egbert. Really interesting to see you. Thank you, Cheryl, for making it possible for Egbert to be with us today. Look forward to sitting in that very seat sometime in the not too distant future. I've got my Esther, which is what a person from the UK needs to go to America.